guys, Nicole here. So I am here to do a process video using the Cheeky Studio kit that I am using as I'm a guest designer this month, and just kind of flipping through them here really quickly for you. I did an unboxing video, so if you want to look at the supplies in more detail, be sure to check that out. I also had the tissue paper that the products came in that I am including in this little kit, and then the only item outside of the Cheeky Studio supplies that I'm using is this Snow White cardstock from, I think it's Colorbach, that I just get at Walmart. And it's actually like my favorite white cardstock. It's textured a little bit and it's thicker, it's heavier. It's just a nice base white cardstock. So I am going to do a layout today that is two photos, and it's two photos from they are some pictures that I took right before my daughter's dance recital of me and her, and they well, if you can, I don't know if you can tell that the supplies are they're very richly colored. They're gorgeous, and mostly fall themed. However, these pictures are not from the fall, but I wanted to challenge myself to use the supplies in a way that, you know, weren't necessarily seasonal. But also I have these beautiful pink sequins and pink bows. So I wanted to do at least one layout that was non-fall that would allow me to use those supplies up. And then I'll probably do another layout here soon that is more fall themed, where I can use the fall theme supplies and papers in this collection. And so I always enjoy using bits and pieces of paper lines that aren't necessarily obviously themed for different types of photos. And so there's this really beautiful deep red paper in this line, and I think that I can get, I have a couple of photos from Christmas that aren't super Christmassy in themselves, but they were taken on Christmas. And the colors worked really well, so I'm going to even try to maybe do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a couple process videos, and then I'm going to just scrapbook with this collection of supplies as much as I can, and then I'll do like a layout share at the end. So it'll be kind of like a kit love video, but this particular kit was, you know, provided to me by Cheeky Studio, and want to kind of show you how I use their supplies and how beautiful they are. So here, really quickly, I do this often when I'm working with supplies that are cut-aparts. When I sit down to either scrapbook or work with a kit, I often pre-cut those up. And so whether it's Project Life type of cards or journaling cards or whatever, I always try to pre-cut them because I know I am more apt to use them if they're already cut out when I'm in my actual process. If I'm scrapbooking away and then it doesn't always work in my process to stop and then cut something out, which is why I don't fussy cut very often. However, I do fussy cut in this on this layout, because there was a beautiful floral paper, but also because there aren't a ton of supplies that I'm working with. Like I said, I didn't want to add in anything else. Actually, I don't think I said that. This is the second time I've done this voiceover. So I decided I wanted to try not to add in anything else. And so doing that, working with a smaller collection of supplies can often be very beneficial in that it kind of makes you do things that maybe you don't always do in your process. And so because I like to have a variety of dimensions, I do have the flare there, which is are great dimensional pieces, but I often like to do lots of layers. And so to fussy cut out of the beautiful papers just kind of gave me another option for layering, and so that was really fun to do. And again, I often don't do that, and it's nice to challenge myself to work with a small collection of supplies, and it kind of forces me to do some of those really fun things that I wouldn't normally do otherwise. So anyway, so I'm just trimming down my photos. I just printed these off on my Canon selfie, and I always print them with a border so I don't have to mat them because I really like to have a white border on my photos. And I've already kind of pulled the papers I wanted to use. I do add in, I think, another pattern after this, a couple other patterns after this. But I usually kind of pull the patterns I know I want to use, and then if I need to add in more later, I do so. I know I want to use this beautiful tissue paper because my daughter's dance uniform is like silver and black, and I just think that will be a really fun texture. I also love that her outfit is very like sequined, and this will be a great opportunity to use those sequins. And so I'm just going to first mat, I'm going to kind of treat these two photos almost as one, like one block. And so I mat them with this really pretty light pink floral paper. The flowers are white, like white outlined. And I just think that's really pretty. And if you can, it's hard to see, but my dress that I have on has like lots of pinks and some blues in it. And then of course she has black, and then I have like a gray cardigan on, and there is some like grayish kind of taupey tones in this geometric paper, and so I think that works really well. So I'm going to just adhere them down, and I'm going to apologize. I get a little bit distracted when I know that I'm doing a voiceover. I tend to just kind of scrapbook as I normally would, even though I'm recording. So I kind of stop, and I'm like messing with the remote control here and I'm watching a TV show, which I usually do when I scrapbook. And then at some point my piece that I have my phone attached to kind of falls over on me. So, but hopefully that won't, it happens pretty quickly. And since I have this sped up a little bit, hopefully you won't notice that. So too badly anyway. So while I'm waiting here for me to figure out my choice of TV show, today is a day I actually got an extra day at home that I wasn't expecting, both my kids as well. We had a snow day. We are in Nebraska, and we've kind of made the news quite a bit the last day and a half, as we've had some really tragic weather. We had a blizzard that came to us kind of from the Denver area. I kind of came in from that direction. Like Denver got hit pretty badly first, and then it came to us, and that came with really, really strong winds. And so even though we only got like maybe an inch, maybe a little bit more than that, it's hard to tell, of snow, we had really high winds for about, 12 to 15 hours straight. And so because of that, the kids didn't have school. And because it was probably a little icy this morning before it warmed up, it was, we had a lot of moisture before that. And so we had a lot of icy stuff going on as well. But the big story today was that we had the state, a good portion, like 2/3 of the state, we've had quite a bit of snow, like lots of little snowstorms here and there where, we get 2, 4, 6 inches at a time. And between all that snow melt, and then we got a ton of rain yesterday, a good portion of our state is underwater right now. We have multiple towns that are flooded, some bridges that have collapsed, a lot of roads that are closed. And so like almost every road in Nebraska right now is closed down. It's pretty crazy. Our main I-80 interstate is mostly closed, partially because of the blizzard and partially because of the flooding. So if you could say a prayer for our state, if you're the praying type, we've had a rough day and a half. And there's going to be a lot of people affected. So anyway, because of all of that, Nebraska was kind of closed down today outside of people who were being rescued and, yeah, just been kind of a crazy, crazy time. And so, all right. So with that said, so now you kind of know why I got a scrapbook on a day I normally wouldn't scrapbook. Um, uh, I am just doing some layering up here as I'm figuring out kind of what I want to do with this page. I knew I wanted that multicolored geometric paper just because of the beautiful colors. And again, because some of the colors in these papers are very fallish, very rich and very, there's some oranges and things. This paper, not too much, but I really do what I can to really pull in the non-fall feeling elements and papers. And so, anyway, so I love that really beautiful geometric paper. It's gorgeous. And then I'm just going to do one more layer using this tissue paper. And I like to use tissue paper, glassine bags, vellum as just a really fun way to create just an extra different type of texture and interest to a page. And so I kind of crumple up the edges and just to make it, obvious that it's a tissue paper. It's different material than the other papers. Oh, and that's where my thing falls. I'm like, what? What's going on? I haven't had trouble with that before, so I'm not for sure what the deal was, but I have to kind of do a little readjusting here. So pardon me. Tighten up a few things. Okay, so now I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do behind the photos and just kind of where I want to go from here. And I decide I want to add a couple more strips of paper kind of lengthwise, horizontally behind the photo, just to get some more color and some more fun to the background. All right. So I decided to do a strip of this beautiful floral paper behind. And then I decided I kind of need a little bit more black or something more bold also underneath. And I'll find another paper that is, I think it's black. It's based black, and then it has a flower on it. Here, yes. And I just want to do a thin strip of that just to get a little bit more black there. And then I'll layer this block of photos over that. I glue it down and I end up moving it down a little bit because I figure that I'm going to do my normal kind of style, and I'm going to do this kind of main block with the photos, and then I'm going to do a little a grouping of or a cluster of supplies along the top. I often do that where I do like one main kind of area of the layout, and then I'll find another place to cluster embellishments. And I really I know, it's design wise, it's good to have sets of 3, like triangular groupings and things. And I end up doing that in the end, but initially I'm going to do just 2. But you'll see kind of how that progresses over time. So I know I want to use these bows because it's, dance tends to be a very girly kind of, where you do the hair and the makeup and you have these really beautiful dresses. And so I thought the bows really fit. And I think there's 6 of them in that package. And so I'm kind of starting to think, oh, you know what, I might want to use a couple of bows on here. And I want to probably do a cluster up top. So I'm going to move this down a little bit. So I just move that down a little bit. So what I usually do when I do a cluster, along the edge or somewhere else on the page, I try to use some of the same, just the leftover pieces of the pattern paper that I've already cut into, and then that helps you. It helps bring it all together because you're seeing a little bit of the pattern up top that you're seeing in the main cluster. And so since I use that floral paper behind the photos, I decided, hey, I'm going to create another layer of embellishment and do some fussy cutting. And so the thing is, this beautiful, gorgeous floral has that orange leaf, and I think that feels very fallish. And so when I fussy cut, I just cut out the orange leaf part. And sorry, I should have probably paused and cut some of this out, but you can watch it in all its glory. Oh, let's see. And I don't mind that these flowers are cut off because I know I'm just going to tuck it in underneath that piece of paper. And so I love doing clusters like this. And when I do a cluster, I just take into consideration like a variety of different sizes and then shapes of items. And so I have this straight piece of paper. Then I'm going to add some, I'm going to add some interest to it by bringing in the florals kind of tucked into it. And then I'll have, the bow on top, which will give it a nice dimensional piece to it. And I'll talk about some other ways I add dimension as well. I just like, and it's something I had to figure out over time, that when I have a layout that's all flat, it bothers me. And so I really like dimension. And so I do have the flare, but I think most of the flares were very fall themed. I do end up using one of them that was a butterfly. And so ways you can, if you don't have a lot of dimensional pieces, ways you can do that are you can pop dot things up. So maybe have some flat pieces and then pop dot some things, on top of that. Or you can, I will actually kind of frill up all the edges of the papers, and you'll see that kind of towards the end where I kind of just take my fingers underneath and just kind of roll them up. And so it looks like the edges are kind of coming off the page. It just gives it a really neat look. And I like to do that a lot. And then at the very end, and of course, the bows are dimensional too. So I have the bows and I have the flare. Like I said, the flare is mostly all fall themed. And so, anyway, so I just wanted to create a little bit more, than just those two items. And so that's why when I, typically make my own kit, I do that a lot. I always try to, I always make sure I have dimensional pieces mixed with flat pieces of all different shapes and sizes. So whether it be florals or, like die cuts. And so I really appreciate that in this kit, I have those really fun labels, which a lot of them are fall themed as well. But I do end up using two of them. One of them, I think I just end up hiding a word and just using part of it. So I have these great, the pattern paper, I can create whatever size I want layer wise. But then these really fun labels provide another size of layer, a flat layer, and then the bows and the flare are two different shapes. And so it's really a good mix of supplies to make a page that I know I tend to like, where you have a good variety of layering going on. And so I am really trying to focus though on I'm really trying to focus on getting a lot of pink on this layout because, again, trying to make sure it doesn't look too fallish. And so I don't end up using this blue label, but I use a pink label on the left there. And then, which works out great because it's a rectangular piece now in that cluster because I have that rectangular pattern paper on the top. And so, they all kind of balance each other out, which is nice. And like I said, I was initially just going to do these two clusters, and then I end up adding a third one on the bottom right, kind of creating a triangular thing going on with the embellishment clusters. And really love how it turns out. And I do end up adding one more label because I realized I didn't have a title. And so I use one of the other labels as a title, and I don't do that until after I quit recording. So in my pictures at the end, you'll see I add a little purple label to just the top, and I add, and then to the top of the photo block there. And I covered half the word, and so I just have it where it says amazing. And I thought that was a good use for that to use it as a title. So now I'm just adhering some sequins down. So of course this is ideal layout to use sequins on, and just adhere those down kind of around the two different clusters. And a lot of times even if I didn't add in the third cluster, before I even do that, I actually add in also a couple random sequins in the bottom right. And I like to do that, like, so the sequins don't look like they're too organized. They look like they're kind of scattered on the page. And so when you only have them in the two clusters, that looks a little too organized to me. And so then you'll see here, I'll put just two random ones in the bottom right. And I'll do that when I splatter mist as well, or do like enamel dots, where you just like, it's kind of unexpected, but it ends up being kind of part of a cluster in the end anyway, and that's fine. So I do my outline like I like to do on white backgrounds, and especially since I had black as a fairly dominant color in this layout, that kind of just brings it all in. And not that I'd have to have black on the layout for me to like this. I just like doing this for some reason. It's just one of those things. Back in the day, when distressing was big, it's kind of how you'd add that interest to the edges of the page. You would use your Tim Holtz thing, and you'd put, distress ink around the edges. And I think this is just like my modern form of that. So here I'm just playing with okay, do I want to do another little bit down here? And then I remember I have this floral pack. And initially my brain was telling me that it was all fall and like pumpkins, but then I remember that there were some really beautiful floral pieces in there as well. And so I pull some of the pink flowers from that pack and layer them up, and then end up just creating a third cluster here. So I like that blue, but it was a different color blue than what I had elsewhere, so I ended up just going with like 3 different tones of pink. And I could have fussy cut another flower, but I actually like how this turns out, and that one cluster is just a little bit different. And also because you can see in the floral pattern paper, right in that area, I have that mint green flower right there. And so I kind of already have that mint green, it's kind of already represented, just by the fact that it's on the paper right there. But so then you can see I pulled that butterfly flare, because I'm like, okay, the rest of them are fall themed, but this one, there's one that's like a goose or a duck or something. That one probably could have worked, but I just wanted to use this one butterfly one. And so because I have 3 sections, I end up moving the pink bow down to this section and then moving the flare to that middle one. So you have like the flare is like kind of it's by itself, and so it's in the middle one, and then you have the 2 on the outside that have the bows, and so that just kind of flows better because the flare is by itself, and so it being in the middle of the 2 like pieces looks better to me, and I like that. The flare's really pretty. So I go and add in one more sequin. And it's definitely coming together. I'm trying to think of what I think this, let's see, OA journal really quickly here. Sometimes if I'm not for sure if I'm done, I just stop and get the journaling done just so I make sure I've left enough room for it and have that piece done. And honestly, sometimes the journaling adds to the design of the page too. And so I like to do that. I don't always do it last. I most often do it last, but if I need to like picture it on the page, I'll do it a little bit earlier so I know I can see how it all looks together. Let's see. Sorry, the layout's a little high up on the screen there. So I decided I want to get a little bit more, that middle cluster, I just want a little bit more substance to it. And so I had this beautiful chevron paper, which is the back of the light pink paper. And I love tags. I think they just provide a really great like vertical element. And so I love that the chevron has an energy to it. And again, this is like before a dance recital, and this is for her clogging, and so, which is a very high-paced dance. And so I thought that fit well. And so I just basically fold it together and then do one snip so that the sides are even. And then I'm gonna punch a hole at the top, and then I normally would do twine, but with this layout, I just used another sequin because it worked really well to do it that way. You can see I tuck it to the left a little bit so you can kind of see it, not just poking out the top, but you can see it kind of to the left of that a little bit. And again, just like it's just part of the cluster. And I really like the fun color and energy that adds to the layout, for sure. And then just to the right of that tag is where I add in, I kind of go, I think underneath, like on top of the tissue paper, but underneath the other layer, I will tuck in a purple tag that says amazing. And I love how that turns out. So now I'm going to start adding some dimension, and I'm just going to kind of fold up all the layers of paper, and then shortly after that here, I will grab some, I really like they are dimensional like rectangles. You get them at Hobby Lobby. They come in like just like a circle of, I don't know how to say it, but I think you'll see them here. I just tore a piece of it off, but I get them from Hobby Lobby, and they're really nice. They're perfect for if you want to pop dot up larger items. I don't have any foam around. I know a lot of people will just cut from foam. But I'd like to take these and just randomly put them underneath some of the layers just to pop them up a little bit and give them some dimension. And I'll cut these in half if I need to. It's easier for me to do that than to have like multiple sizes of these things. But I do have lots of sizes of these things just from over the years. But I tend to always gravitate towards these and then cut them down if I need to. But I'm just going to randomly just place them underneath, and it just, if you can see, it just makes them like pop up and kind of provide some, again, some added energy and dimension to the page. And it's always great to have a little extra adhesive too, right? You can see just how that pops some of those up a little bit. So that's it, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and make sure you check out at the end. There's a discount code for you to go order some of these awesome supplies. And thank you so much for watching, and have a great scrappy day. Bye-bye.